Good afternoon. Well, it's warmer today with the sun and a little less wind, and that's nice. And in the early morning hours today, the enemy within, the seditious conspirators, took over the People's House, the House of Representatives, and made McCarthy their speaker. Not without a lot of fighting, not without a lot of unprofessional histrionics, not without a lot of cutthroat lies, but they did it. And what they've done is they've set the tone that we can expect going down the road. Those of us who either heard the speech as it was given by McCarthy accepting his position as the speaker or heard it afterwards probably felt, as I did, repulsed at the series of misrepresentations and lies about who McCarthy is, what his conference or caucus is about, and what he plans to do for the Congress. It would be hard to single out anyone besides McCarthy for misconduct, but one of my favorites, in the sense of among the worst, putting aside how Green could become McCarthy's right-hand muscle in his effort to become Speaker, is Matt Gaetz. You may know him for the starring role that they were casting him as in the movie Sleeping with the Minors. But he's since been cleared in September of those charges, so despite a cooperating individual, they decided there was no there. Or, it's another example of some people are above the law, and we all know about the campaign, ironically, that Gaetz and Green had going across the country pushing back on the charges. Just goes to show sometimes you can win more out of the courtroom than you can possibly in the courtroom or the halls of the prosecutors who are considering your fate. But he was one of the people speaking against McCarthy consistently through the proceeding while raising money, and he raised millions according to some reports, just being against McCarthy. So he's an interesting case. And the funny thing is, people are asked who's going to suffer, if at all, as a result of being against McCarthy. McCarthy said he hadn't promised anything to anybody and so forth. I think one of the reasons Jim Jordan didn't jump at the chance of being Speaker is he didn't think it could happen, thought it was a mess, and would rather be, and this is the amazing thing, him as chair of the House Judiciary Committee. We've had a long line of people, some better than others, Democrat and Republican, who've chaired that committee. I can't imagine a worse choice. Remember, he was not selected for the January 6th Select Committee because when McCarthy chose him to be in that committee, it appeared that he would just be there to throw food at the people and to cause disruption and dismay in the process. No question that's what would happen. Well, he's the chair. He's likely to be in the House the chair of the Judiciary Committee. Isn't that something? But let's return to Gaetz a little bit. Gaetz in the proceedings was very active trying to arrange how he would vote and when he would vote so that he would be the last vote in the House that would prevent McCarthy from getting the votes he needed to become Speaker. And that prompted an argument on the floor that also led to some, not fisticuffs, but a little physical pushing and pulling. And so finally, we have the situation in which McCarthy gives a false speech about his musings, looking at paintings of Lincoln. Thinking of himself as Lincoln? There's one. Saying there'd be a truth. Well, that'll be changed, that there's going to be a truth coming from him. And basically listing the brutal things that he hopes to do when he becomes active as the Speaker. Now, what do you think is going to happen to Gaetz? Well, some of you may know what Irish Alzheimer's is. You know what Irish Alzheimer's is? You forget everything but the grudges. And I think McCarthy is not going to forget these grudges very soon. I think he'll find ways, maybe not so obvious, to cut the wings of Getz, who will find ways to fly all on his own. Now, let's examine Getz a little bit. Some might say, well, he has a right to oppose McCarthy and so forth. But as I said the other day, these guys are anarchists. They want to bring down the government and then build up their new government. And the new government that they wish to have is basically an autocracy, one or a few people running the government. And Trump seems to remain in that category of the preferred presidential candidates, but watch out, there are others sorting around who'd like to be in that position. So that's a real concern. But keep in mind that Getz attended a meeting on December the 21st, 2020, and it was about how they were going to manipulate the rules so that on January the 6th, 2021, that Trump could become president, or this process of challenging the electors could extend into a proceeding that would get that result. And they were going to have a variety of things happening on January the 6th. Well, Getz sought a pardon after that meeting. He went to Meadows and others, and he was not the only one. And at one point, he wanted a pardon for all in Congress. I think that's so it would conceal the specific pardon that he got. Now, people don't ask for a pardon unless they've committed a wrong. And there's no question that Getz and others were doing a lot that was wrong. And their hope was that they would prevail and they'd get the pardon from Trump in the next administration. But that wasn't happening. So they were very anxious to get pardons, and Trump was not so anxious to give them out. And there was a meeting on December the 21st, and they had a whole bunch of people. Biggs was there, Brooks was there, Gohmert, Gosar, a whole bunch of these guys, and Getz, of course. So that's what you have. And I thought yesterday, when Biden was having what I would call a counter demonstration to the chaos in the House, and noting the contributions of people to America taking their risks, there was a picture that I found quite moving of Brian Sicknick's parents being given the Memorial Award for their son, 42, giving his life. He had fought to protect the house, and it took so much out of him. He had 2 strokes, and at 42 years of age, he was dead because of what he did, what he sacrificed to try to save the Capitol as a member of the Capitol Police Force. He's one example of the sacrifice of people. But just imagine the parents of this 42-year-old man with a future ahead of him, and his parents with their heads bowed in the picture I saw, with Biden standing between them, his arms around both, and giving them this award. And yes, it was an honor. It was a deserved honor. And Brian knew what he was doing when he took this assignment on the Hill. And obviously, he didn't step back from that assignment. He didn't play it safe. He literally risked his life, and because of that, he lost it. That's who McCarthy and Getz and these people are responsible for compromising them, as well as our still young republic, and who want to dismantle it and take it apart in the most ghoulish, ruthless, bizarre, and cruel way that they can. So I think what we should keep in mind is that, in a way, the bad guys are ahead narrowly, just as they're ahead narrowly in terms of control of the House, because they did all of this, and the people, that is, we the people, the voters, gave them very narrow power in the House, and us, the Democrats, narrow power in the Senate. And of course, we have a president who has a veto power. But in a sense, the criminals won, because those who sought to deny the certification of the election that Biden truly won, and who tried to transfer that result to Trump, who very soundly lost. They live again today to fight another day and to spend the next 2 years spending our tax dollars, our time, our goodwill, our reputation around the world, our support for other nations, and for those here at home who need a helping hand, who deserved it, who served us as citizens, who served us in public office, and these guys do not exist for them. And it's not clear with the divisions they have what they do stand for, except for the destruction in one form or other of our republic. So I may have mentioned before that Ari Melber distinguished this event from a fight for power to a fight for the definition of America, which is to say, are we a democracy and a republic, or are we an autocracy? Well, the reason to have this fight, to have this war, to go on as we are, resisting at every turn these Republicans, is that's really what's at risk. The big issue. How are we governed? What freedom do we have? And what prospect do we have for preserving and protecting the Republic that these guys would squander? And that's it. That's our story. That's all I've got today. But it is beautiful out, and so I speak to you from my cathedral of trees, gorgeous, and as everything else, life and our pursuit of liberty gives us hope that in the end we will prevail. All the best. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.